Hi everyone, as promised, here is your video on pre-writing. In my first video that I recorded, I did a quick overview of the writing process. And the writing process is a multi-step process that usually is not one clean line from A to B. It can start with, I have a topic I think I'm interested in, I do some pre-writing, I decide that I don't like that topic, I go back and I pick a different topic. I start the process over again with some pre-writing, and then satisfied, I move on to writing a rough draft. And then I get some feedback from people, and they help me to see that, oh, I need to change point 3 and move it to point 1. And so I do some revision and editing, and then maybe I get to a final draft. So in the process of writing, things can change. And one of the first steps that we do in the process of writing is get an assignment. And that could be at work or it can be in college. And for the English composition course that you're in, your first writing assignment is to write a process analysis essay. Now you've been given a couple topics to pick, and your audience is for your fellow classmates, it's for your instructors, Erin and Amory, and it's for potential incoming students who don't have the experience that you do as a student. And so you're kind of trying to share your information to make their path smoother than maybe yours was. So think about topics that you most relate to, you have the most experience on, or you have the strongest opinion on that you feel that you can help future students to do better and to do well. And so when we pick the topic that we like, we start to pre-write rather than beginning drafting immediately, which is a process of pre-writing that you can employ. What I often encourage is to pick a pre-writing strategy that is a little lower stakes, meaning that you don't have to start writing in sentences and paragraphs. You can just start kind of throwing things down on paper and seeing what sticks. So some of the common pre-writing techniques are on the screen in front of you, and I'll go over a few of them. Outlining, I'm pretty sure most of you have done before, and it's one that teachers often ask for. It's personally my least favorite form of pre-writing because before I start writing a paper, I don't know the structure of it yet. I have found outlining more helpful after I've written my rough draft so that I can start to see my points and if I have enough evidence for each of them. So keep that in mind. But if you are in love with outlines, do an outline. However, options beyond outlining are called free writing journaling, reporter's questions, and clustering mind mapping, diagramming, and brainstorming or listing. So the reporter's questions are pretty straightforward. You can write on one side of the paper who, what, when, where, why, and how, and then try to answer those. That will get you so far. It'll give you a basic structure of what you want to write about, who you're writing it for, how the process works. That's an option. Free writing is where you write nonstop for timed increments. So you put your fingers on your keyboard or your hand on your pen or pencil and you set your timer and you type, write for, let's say you start with 3 minutes. So you pick a topic and you write nonstop, not letting your fingers up, not letting your hand rest, and you don't care about mistakes. You don't care about grammatical errors. You don't care if it makes sense. If your mind goes to, I don't know what to say next, you type out or write out, I don't know what to say next, until you can kind of get yourself back to the topic. And the beauty of free writing is that sometimes it reveals an idea that wouldn't have been there before because you are allowing yourself the freedom to write without restraint. And a lot of us have negative critics in our head who tell us, you don't know how to spell that. That's a silly idea. What are you trying to say? And when you free write, you kind of push those to the side and you say, shh, I'm going to work on this right now. Here's where I'm going. And we do this in class when we meet, and I have students do a couple different sessions. So maybe 3 minutes and then another 2 minutes and another 3 minutes. And I have them go through and look at it. We all laugh at our errors because there will be plenty of them, but you start to see kernels of ideas. You see phrases that maybe you crafted in your rush to write that are really elegant and beautiful. And so free writing is one of my favorites as far as just getting ideas down and trying to quiet that person in my head who tells me that I don't know what I'm doing, because we all have them. And then journaling, if you've kept a journal or a diary, you can just kind of give it that personal touch where you're writing down thoughts or prompts or ideas. And then clustering or diagramming or mind mapping, These are hard to show on a computer without a specific program. Oftentimes students who do this use pen and paper and then take a picture of it. You start with the circle. So let's say living on a budget, and then you go, okay, what does that involve? And here I do an offshoot, and here's another little bubble. All right, pay bills. And then it's social, and then it's school expenses. And so then you start to see how all of these areas overlap and interact, and then you can start to see, okay, there's multifacets to this. What do I want to focus on? People who are nonlinear thinkers, people who are maybe more abstract, slightly more artistic, prefer usually diagramming and mind mapping. And then you have brainstorming and listing, which is just like if you're jotting down a grocery list. Here's what I need, here's what I want to make for this week. Similar concept with brainstorming and listing. So I'm going to pop up on the screen right now an example for you. Hopefully I still have it, of what I'm talking about. So here is me listing or brainstorming things as they come to me for how to live on a budget as a college student. When I was in college, I first worked at a retail store called Herberger's. We used to have one at the Valley View Mall here in La Crosse. And that was my job. Paid poorly, and I got a really awesome discount, so I didn't make a lot of money, and I spent too much money on clothes. And so my first piece of advice to new students, which I learned the hard way, is don't get a job in retail if you can't not shop. So I would get myself a different job. I eventually worked at a bank, which was much more helpful for my pocketbook because I got to see how people manage money. I got to see the people who would come in weekly with bank overdrafts. And I started to pay more attention to where my spending was and how much money I had in my bank account. So here are other ideas that came to me, and this was just me writing down as they came. And so I got a pretty long list. And given the scope of this first paper, which is 2 to 3 pages long, I probably can't cover all of these. So then I started to ask myself, okay, what are the categories that I'm seeing? So I'm seeing a need for money budgeting for entertainment because we all have social lives, and hopefully with COVID lessening, we'll be able to spend a little bit more time and money on those social lives. But it also includes things like subscription services like Netflix or Hulu. So what do I spend on a monthly basis to entertain myself? And then I have bills. So am I living in a dorm and I have a meal plan? Am I living with roommates and we share grocery expenses and we have, internet to pay for and cell phones to pay for? And then paying for school. Do I have grants? Do I have loans? Do I have scholarships? Am I paying for things out of my pocket? Have I saved previously to pay for things? So those are ideas for 3 main topics that I could focus on in my paper after I've done a good deal of brainstorming and listing. And then I like to start thinking of title ideas. Oftentimes I don't write a title until after I've gotten a rough draft down, but here were some ideas. It's Friday night, you're broke, welcome to college. That was my life as a college student. So this is an example of brainstorming listing. And I'm opening up to you the type of free writing you'd like or pre-writing you'd like to do for this first essay. So if you'd like to do an outline, do an outline. If you'd like to free write. If you'd like to do reporter's questions, that's fine. All I ask is that you fill a decent size 1 page anyway, so that I have an idea of main points you're thinking about, directions you're going with it, support that you'll have for each of those main points. There needs to be enough there for me to guide you, give you some advice on it. And then once you've done that, Erin and I take a look at your pre-writing and then we say, yep, that looks good, go forward with this. You start to work on a rough draft. And a rough draft is just that. It's rough. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be completely complete. You just want a basic idea of where you're going. So you take your pre-writing. So I'd take my list and I'd take my possible 3 categories and I'd start to craft a rough draft. And one of the things I see often is people being really hard on themselves about their rough draft. It's rough for a reason. We create it, we birth it from our minds onto the page, and then we share it with other people. There'll be a separate video on peer reviews, but we then look for feedback. We look for people to help us see things that maybe we missed, we overlooked, we didn't think of, ideas that we could do for another topic, and then we take our rough draft back and we continue to work on it. So like I said at the beginning, the writing process is not A to B and you're done. It's all over until you're satisfied and you believe that your writing's will best apply to your audience that you've intended and the purpose that you're writing for. So that's a quick overview on pre-writing, and happy pre-writing and writing. Thanks.